briefly about me. I'm Kate, and I did an MA, and I was I'm an amateur. So there's no point doing somebody very famous if you're an amateur. You don't do like Elizabeth I or something like that. But you don't want to do somebody that nobody's ever heard of at all, because that doesn't give you anything to write about. So I thought I will write about horses, because that's my thing. And then I thought, right, who am I going to do? And I found this lady, because she lived a long life and there's quite a bit written about her. So she's not too famous, but there's lots of information about her. And I had an accident. I say it myself, I'm the first person, as far as I know, to find these cartoons in the Library of Ireland. And what I'd really, in Dublin, and what I'd really like to do is get them published, but I can't, obviously, because the library owned them. Right. So Mrs. O'Donoghue, I'm going to very quickly look at all of these things that she was. She was a musician, she was an equestrian, she wrote, and she was a very famous journalist actually in the day. She was an artist, maybe, maybe not. And I've got some questions for you at the end, so I'm going to make sure you're listening to me, so pay attention. Right, very briefly, she's born Nannie Lambert, she's a Protestant, she's that Anglo-Irish family, what we would now call, sometimes call the ascendancy class. She's part of the wider Lambert family, but the trouble is her dad didn't inherit because he was the youngest son, so she knew about this castle, but she didn't come from the family line that inherited it, unfortunately. But she did write about castle, and I'm sure that must be what she's talking about here. Great white mansion, solid square window, so I think, would you agree that applies to this house, I'm sure. But anyway, let's do her cartoons. Right. Aren't they charming? I think they're really charming. This is her mum on the left, Jane, and this is her granddad, who introduced her horses, but mainly via the medium of betting. So he's a betting man. That's how he knew about horses when she was a kid. I'm not sure how much he knew otherwise. And this is the Lambert family. Isn't that cute? And she is the very littlest one on the right-hand side. That is the Lambert. That is little Nannie there on the very far right side. She is. Right, she had a very comfortable Dublin middle-class upbringing. She played music, and music for girls is a real kind of accomplishment because that's what you're allowed to do. Ladies in those days could play the piano and they could sing, so that's kind of what they were allowed to do. And as you see there, she's very musical and she's drawing herself with all those instruments around her. She also wrote poetry, as you see on the left, and she was a painter, so she says. You see little paintings on the right. I hope you like her little outfit with little pantaloons. It's a very cute little outfit that she wears. Right, she's a bit of a swot, I think. So there she's drawing herself, she says she's never weary of studying, so she's had a nose in her book a lot of the time. And according to her, she takes away prizes at every examination, so she's pushing a cart full of prizes. So it's also, so far, so good. She's having a nice childhood in a comfortable middle-class home. But, by the way, these are her drawings, so this is what she thinks. You see there, she's being excluded by the men, so the men are talking to each other like this, and she's in the background. So even though she's obviously very clever, she's won all those prizes, the men aren't including her in their conversations. You see there, she's looking quite sad, I think. She's looking a bit miserable. And even worse, her brothers can go to college, but of course in those days, girls just didn't get to university and they didn't go to college. So she's sitting behind, so she's very clever, she does very well at school, good at poetry and painting, all the rest of it. But you see there, sitting quietly while her brothers are off to college. I just as an aside, I went to a talk the other day, Cambridge University back home didn't award degrees to women until 1948, so 100 years after these, more or less, a bit more, even more actually, I think. Right. As we know as Lambert, but she became Mrs. O'Donoghue, and this is I think it's a really charming cartoon. So sorry, just going over here. This is her husband on the end, and he's playing dice for her, and she draws herself with that little thing on the end there. So that's how she, according to her, she visits her brother. We can read it for you. So she visits her brother in Dublin, and Dr. Power O'Donoghue is there. And he obviously chats her up at this when he's playing dice. He's a widower by this point. Right, he marries blah, blah, I can read that for himself. He was a musician though. It's interesting that he was a musician, and apparently by all accounts they did have a very happy marriage together, but they had no children, interestingly. I like this little cartoon because she's drawn them together. I don't know if you can see this. They're sharing a drink and they've got gin bottles on either side, so they obviously like to drink. So that's another thing that drew them together. They're both musicians, but they also like to drink gin. Right. First and foremost, you may remember I said she was a musician, so she was a singer, played the harp and piano. There's lots of evidence about all this, and she performed all over Ireland and England, and she got really good reviews. So as I said earlier, one way women could make money back in those days, it's very difficult for women to make money in their own right, but you could do it as a singer, because that's a very respectable career in those days. And she assisted her husband, so you see her there, she's singing on our right, and he's playing the piano. It's kind of another cute cartoon. Right. She was also wrote some music. I've just listed some of the stuff. There's some of that stuff you can find. It's not very good. It's actually not very. I like the woman, but I can't tell a lie. I don't really rate her music. It's a bit waffly. Her lyrics, I think, probably leave something to be desired. Where art thou? Where art thou? Where art thou? Not so good. I think she should have stuck with playing whatever, but I think she should have not written stuff. Not to worry. Oops. Right. And you see here, I've listed some of her reviews. So she was really well known as a singer. So chaste, beautiful, top artist, eminent artist. So she's first and foremost, when she was younger, she had a very successful career as a singer. But for more importantly, I think she really wanted to be known as a horsewoman, and she was fearless. I mean, fierce. So in those days, ladies had to ride in skirts with a top hat, so they weren't even wearing hard hats. And this is a great photo. That's a great photo, great cartoon. And she was taught by a chap called Alan McDonough, who was a well-known jockey here in these parts. And interestingly, we know that she rode round 3 steeplechase courses here in Ireland, because it's actually written about. I mean, what an achievement. Just to remind you, she's riding around steeplechase courses like that, in that kind of outfit. So that's quite a staggering achievement, really. And she rode them on her perfect horse, Pleader, and that's her picture of Pleader, which is her horse. Right, I've included this just because in those days women had to have a pilot, so they weren't allowed to ride on their own in these kind of courses. They had to follow somebody, and I'm not sure, but I think that's Mr. McDonough. But you see there, she has to follow him. She's not allowed to ride out on her own. So anyway, she, in her day, she's known for a lot of things, but she wrote 2 fantastically best-selling equestrian manuals. Both of them are here. One is Riding for Ladies. It's this one you're welcome to look at. And another one is listed there, Ladies on Horseback. What I would say is that notice the word ladies. At this time, they're using the word ladies because it's a very ladylike thing to do. So they really were best-selling. I mean, they, like I say, they're published across the world, numerous editions, absolute sellout. Because somehow or another she hit a nerve, and she was very successful because at the time she wrote them, it was the rise of the middle classes. I said music was a way out of the home for women, but also so was equestrianism, because it was respectable. In some ways it's very respectable. So if you're a woman, you've got a bit of money, you need a bit of money obviously, you had to be seen to be respectable, you could ride. And so women needed to be taught how to ride, because obviously it's kind of a new thing for some people. Right, I'm going to very quickly look at side saddle riding, so hope you find it interesting, going off a bit of a tangent. Generally, it's somebody here called Anna Bohemia. She is accredited with bringing side saddle to Europe, basically. And she overrode, so originally you can find women riding astride. I love this, it's a great picture, it's a Chinese kind of thing, but then women did ride astride beforehand. Goddess Epona, she's seen as riding astride. Sorry. Anyway, Anna Bohemia, as I was saying, she comes over to Europe. She's quite famous. She's the sister of good King Wenceslas. That's quite good. She marries the English king, King Richard II. Because she's posh and she becomes a queen, she kind of gets posh women round her. They think, oh, I better do what the queen does, so I better ride side saddle too. And we're talking about people with money here, and it's not obviously not everybody, but we're talking about moneyed classes. So they think, oh, the queen does that, I'm going to do that then. And at this time, kind of, it's becoming immodest for women to ride astride. It's kind of a modest thing. And so back in the olden times, when women first started riding side saddle, they'd ride on something like that. And I actually don't think that's it's like a sofa on a horse, because you'd just be kind of led along. So you'd really literally be sitting sideways. So you couldn't manage the horse or anything. So you kind of trundle along like this. So I'll just go off on the side. Even before, so I meant to say that also, Epona also is shown riding side saddle, so it's kind of even before. But despite Anna Bohemia and posh people, Chaucer, wife of Bath, some women from the lower order, shall we say, continued to ride astride. So the wife of Bath, I don't know if you get to Chaucer over here, but very bawdy, she just didn't care. She thought, right, I'm not riding side saddle, I'm going to carry on riding astride. So there. And Catherine the Great of Russia, she didn't care either. So that is her also riding astride. So although a lot of women thought it's posh and I better do what the Queen does, some women thought, you know what, I'm going to carry on, I'm going to ride astride. But side saddle is not such a practical way of riding. You see here, this is a beautiful illustration from a book by somebody called J. Sterling Clark. It's called The Habit and the Horse, Horse and the Habit, something like that. Now you see, those of you who can ride, and even if you can't, you can see that it's really not a practical outfit to be riding. It's beautiful, but it's really not a practical way of getting around, I don't think. This is another beautiful painting. It's by Velasquez. It's the Queen of Bourbon, whoever that is. Again, that outfit is not practical. Get caught in a horse's hooves if you fall off your curtains. So it looks lovely, but not practical. So all this is going on in the background. Again, back to J. Sterling Clark. Even just to get on the horse, if you're wearing a whacking great skirt, you'd be hoisted on the horse there by two chaps, you see. So you can't even get on and off on your own. So all of this is going on. Right. You see there, 1830, Jules Pellier, or Jules, I think, because he is French. He invents this thing called the leaping head, and it allows women a much better way of riding side saddle. It allows a much more secure seat. And another key invention of this time was the safety skirt. So those big skirts you saw earlier, they got caught up in the horse's hooves and the undergrowth, but a safety skirt would just literally rip off. So just go back one again, you see, you wore trousers underneath the safety skirt, and then you have the safety skirt. Right, and here she is. I've got actual illustration here. Excuse me, 1 minute. You see here, she's got the leaping head. She's got the two poles. She's demonstrating that she used a leaping head saddle and a safety skirt. That's what she's wearing. So she hit a nerve. She was riding at exactly the right time. So we've got the invention of the safety skirt and the leaping and the new saddle. And women are thinking, right, okay, I can ride. What do I need? I need a manual, and she writes these manuals. Right, at the same time, there is some celebrity endorsement of side saddle riding, the most famous of which was Elizabeth, Empress of Austria, dazzlingly beautiful, as we'll see, very famous, married to, she's like the Princess Diana of her day. Those of you who remember Princess Diana, very famous, but of that dynastic type. So no say in her marriage, no nothing, no nothing. And she used to come over to Ireland to get out the stuffy Austro-Hungary court. So she rode a lot over here just to get away from everybody. And as you see, she's really beautiful, astonishingly beautiful woman. I mean, genuinely beautiful. But she's an excellent rider. So it's kind of celebrity endorsement. So she's also, so women are thinking, right, great, I can ride side saddle, but I can ride properly now. Empress of Austria endorses it. And so does this woman here. Oh, sorry, this is back to Empress of Austria again. There she's riding with a free safety skirt, rocking great skirt. And by this time, though, by the time Mrs. O'Donoghue comes round, she's back. She's, as you see there, she's in a safety skirt and she's got the leaping head saddle. So Mrs. O'Donoghue's timing, spot on. All this is going on. Celebrity endorsement. There's another one. This lady here is called Catherine Walters, known as Skittles, London society, shall we say? What should we say? Woman of ill repute. But she was absolutely beautiful, also beautiful. So all this is going on, and people want to learn how to ride, and Mrs. O'Donoghue comes to tell them. Right. Mrs. O'Donoghue thinks she's a friend of the Empress. I'm not sure that she is. Sees everybody out riding, and this is what she sees. You can read it for yourself, but basically she looks at people out riding and she thinks, blimey, this is rubbish. They're all like, they look terrible, they can't ride. It's a joke. I'm going to write a riding manual. And I think she might have had a miscarriage, I'm not sure, but she's very ill and she thinks, what am I going to do with my time? I know, I'll write a riding manual. So she writes lots of columns and she turns it into Ladies on Horseback, which is this one here. So it's worth it. It's worth a quick read. And then she writes another one. It's so successful, this first book. She writes another one called Riding for Ladies. So she's really famous at this time. Excellent advice, everybody. Silk, don't obviously wear that when you're out riding. I agree with that, obviously. Right, I think very quick background is also against a time when people started to move a bit later on Mrs. O'Donoghue's life. People then start riding, women start riding astride. So, and you're there, people starting to use the word woman in the hunting field, woman. So we're not ladies anymore, we're women, and we start moving, riding astride. Well, but what really is the end of side saddle riding, and what Mrs. O'Donoghue eventually has to accept was World War I back home, because you can see there, women just didn't have time to get that pods about in safety skirts, all that kind of stuff. They just started to bring the horses on for the chaps on the front. They didn't have time to ride pods about skirts and what have you. And you can see there. So the journalist there back in 1914, he says, "I'm just seeing all these women riding." So the number at this point, the number's up for side saddle riding, and even Mrs. O'Donoghue, by about 1930, she concedes the game's up for side saddle. Right, back to her again. Right, she has another accident on this great big horse here, 17 hands. You see, she's out riding Rutland Square. I don't know where that is. Is that in? I don't know where that is. Anyway, she's out riding a great big horse in Rutland Square, and unfortunately, this happens. She goes completely splat on a very big horse out on the pavement. So it's quite extraordinary. She survived it, really. And then people think that she's dead. It's not a very clear picture, unfortunately, but they're all, because she's gone splat under this horse, the assumption is she's died, and all these people, you can see there, they all turn up with flowers for her because they think she's dead, but she isn't, which is good for us. There you are, people all turning out, all sobbing, turning out with flowers for her house because they think she's been squashed under the horse, but she hasn't been. But she carries on. Anyway, there's another fall after, even worse than the other one, and it's so bad at this point the doctor says, right, you've got to stop riding because you're going to kill yourself. So she says, okay, I'll stop riding. But she has a horse, pony and cart, and you can see she has equally, she's been hoisted out of the cart. So whatever she does, because she's kind of fearless and pushes the limit, again, at this point she's been thrown out of the cart. Right, but she carries on with horses. But because she's at this point, she can't ride anymore. She starts writing terrible novels. So she's two that are still around. I'll publish those two that I found at the library, and she's written all those. So she made a fortune writing, I think. She also wrote something, according to this, her cartoon, she wrote something on the Talmud, which Disraeli read. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what she says. Okay, I've done a plot summary for you because I've read them, so you don't have to. They're all about, as I say there, they're all about, it's very Victorian kind of morality stuff. There's good people and bad people, horses die and a dog dies and blah, blah. It's all terribly, teary and all the rest of it. It's the sort of thing that Victorian kind of melodrama people like. They liked it a lot. Dog Sancho dies, horse dies. It's all very sad. But I don't actually recommend reading, but they did very well. I mean, they did very well. They sold a lot of books. But more interestingly, she's writing at a time when Anglo-Irish writers were booming, I would say. I don't know if anybody here's read any Somerville and Ross. Very good equestrian writers. And that on your left there, that lady there is Somerville. So they're better books, I would say. They talk a lot more about the background, the landscape and what's going on, like socially, absentee landlords and all the rest of it. So that's them. Okay, now according to Nannie herself, she's very famous at this point. You see there what she says. I mean, the wording at the top is what she says. Books on every table, songs in every drawing room. So she's doing really well at this point. This is her cartoons though, so we've only got her word for it. And she was also a poet. According to her, she was 8 and got published before she was 8 even, so she's big on poetry. I don't recommend poetry, but you can see there, they also did very well at poetry, did very well. I don't particularly rate it. One interesting thing about her poetry, which I won't dwell upon, but unfortunately her sister Lizzie had killed herself, unfortunately, because she was married to somebody horrible. As you see there, she was engaged to somebody decent, and then she went off with a much younger man, and then she was ruined, as you could be in Victorian times. So she had nowhere to go. Lizzie had nowhere to go at that point, so unfortunately she took her own life. And so Nannie wrote a poem about it, which we won't dwell on because it's a bit miserable. Right. But she does learn from this. So she says how I'm going to tell ladies out there how to distinguish between a gentleman and a cad. So I'm hoping ladies here this evening will read this advice and not be going off with a cad later. So please pay attention, everybody who cads, or I'll hear about it from Michael. Okay, now she also became a really, really, really interesting that she became a respected journalist. So she moved away from kind of Victorian melodrama and she became editor of something called Irish Society, which was very unusual in those days for a woman to become an editor, very unusual. She had a huge variety of topics, which I'll quickly go through. There you go. So she could write about absolutely anything: fishing, hostess, what makes a good wife, blah, blah, blah. You name it, she wrote about it. I mean, she churned out stuff like nobody's business. She also, by this time, she's kind of moved away from her kind of, she at this point, she just couldn't fail to see what was happening around her. So there's lots of poverty and whatever, absentee landlords, all that stuff that was going on. So she writes about all of this. So she's becoming much more serious at this point as she becomes a journalist. So she just notices everything around her. And extraordinarily, she finds herself caught up in the Easter weekend. She's 72 and she's staying at the Gresham Hotel, Dublin. And it seems to me, reading this, I'm not remotely an expert on Irish history at all, obviously, but I just thought, how did she not know something was happening? I mean, how could you not know at that time stuff was going on in Dublin? I just don't get it, but she didn't. And she writes it's quite a serious thing that she writes here. So this is some serious writing from her. You see there what's happening. You see they're all caught up in this hotel. The stuff is going on around them. People are being shot. Well, you can read it for yourselves. And it is very moving. So somehow or another, she's caught up in all of these events, but like really great events of Irish history at that point. She doesn't, well, first of all, she says, I'm not going to take sides. I personally think she probably was more pro-union at that point, because she comes up with you can read for yourself, would the poor be better with Ireland or England? I don't know, but she tries not to take sides. But even though it's all terrible and civil war is raging around her, because she's a positive person, she says that good will arise, and I think that she is right. Right, come to the end. Quick gallop through everything there. I've got some questions for you. I've never seen a painting. She says there, as you see for yourselves, her paintings are on view at various exhibitions, but I've never seen one. So you see that picture there? She's got lots of little pictures that she, according to her cartoon, that she's drawn. I've never seen one. If you come across one, please do let me know. And according to her, she met very famous people. This is actually Queen Victoria here, and that's her son, Edward VII, and that's her advisor, the Indian guy, Abdul Karim. So according to Nannie's cartoons, she met some really famous people. But that's her cartoon, so I just wondered if you thought she really was that famous. We'll never know. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening.
I'll tell you, it's a white and then a crop on that. Oh my God. And this beautiful. I think they call that a straddle, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a hymns. The hymns. The hymns go on the collar. And that's a sidecar. It's very like the one I got from Paul Calderon and Angela. I swapped that for a trap. I gave him a trap and he gave me the sidecar. And I have a picture of that by taking ashore the docks up in the air. If I can ever find it, or I could put it in here. Oh my God. Two people sat each side, and then the driver up and top front. Island stories. Catapulted Osel, the poor man's horse. That's a Nannie shrine. Nannie Lambert died, I think, 1940, and she was interviewed by this Lockray lady. She's about 97, and she wasn't from the Castle Lambert. They were cousins of hers, and she came down here and down to her aunt, and she went to England for secondary education, and she made friends with Elizabeth, the Princess of Austria, a very wild woman, and she was also of the same temperament. You know, she didn't care about what people were supposed to do. She did what she wanted to do. Oh, me heart came with pain. For you.
I'm doing a bit of film on it. So would you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Abel Costco, and this is my horse I've been hunting with since I started riding. He was the first horse I ever rode. We got the family through all the hunting. We have him since the fall. He's 18 years of age, and he's still hunting. I was hunting there in the last season. There, I hunt with the Galway Blazers there in Crahwell, and he's as good as any 3-year-old horse.
Yeah,
He'll
seems.
give you a good day's hunting. You can make him jump at. He's just in out the green field now, literally, and I attacked him up and brought him here.
God,
And
so
after God on him, it's just a bit exciting now, seeing different scenery.
and I don't want to ask, but how long would he?
Live.
Yeah.
Well, the pony she lived about 26, 27 years.
Oh, would they that long? Yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
So we haven't retired now, but semi-retired. Still doing a bit of hunting. I bring him out that day, and a few of my friends will bring him hunting. Like anyone can ride him.
Yeah.
He's really safe, and I'd say there's another 7 or 8 years in the manuals. Yeah, easy.
And I mean, it's tough going though, isn't it?
Oh, it's hard.
I mean, going over 50 yards
and everyone wants to decide it.
And where do you hunt? I mean, where
the Galway bases are based in Crahwell.
Crahwell, yeah.
And we'd be hunting all around Galway.
Yeah.
And to the west of Galway.
I think we may have another horse.
Always put on the indicators.
He's running on now. He was all through hunting. And
I'm overdoing actually. But actually, you're right.
He sits first, then he licks. He's gone into his computer. I'm a friend for life. He'd probably still there. I'd be gone elsewhere.
Always very polite.
How's it going?
It's 27.
27?
It's like Michael.
Yeah, exactly.
Go forever. Hey, you ready, Molly?
Yeah.
Okay. Put on this stuff. Get you up. Yeah. You'll be able to go up and down there and in and out. I'd say she's going to want to eat grass. Huh? She already had a good mouthful. Mama, get your stuff on.
Wait, because this cake's already soft.
Yeah. Ruby.
2 minutes there.
Lovely. Here you go. They're there. In your hand.
Wow.
And your back protector. Quick, because we're going to have a walk around the place as well.
Do this for long time, let's go.
All she's thinking about is that grass. That grass looks so nice.
God, you're absolutely brilliant.